What do you guys think? Do you think that this is necessary? You think it's a good idea to add this extra little bit of security as far as trying to get a Cummins to not spew oil out of everywhere? Or do you think I'm wasting my time? Okay guys, video 2 of the F-450 pull rig, Cummins. In this one I have pulled out the 24 valve that I had been keeping back here by the wall for kind of a special build. This is, I guess, that special build because I haven't come up with a better one. This is a low mile engine. It's got kind of a special story, but I can't tell it without running it past the guy that's tied to the story and everything. Anyway, it might lead to kind of a reveal, pull at your heartstrings type of a thing later. We'll see. I just couldn't see it going to the scrap back in the day, even though it's got quite a story to tell. So this is going to be our 24 valve engine. In this one we're going to be replacing the gear drive system here on the front. We're going to be getting rid of the 44 pump and installing the 7100 P pump. Got some nosy neighbors out here looking at all my junk. This has a 6-speed manual on it, is the way that I got it. We all know that the manual engines were built to handle more horsepower, or built to make more horsepower. So that makes it a good candidate for the 450 because we're going to throw some horsepower at this thing. We're going to shoot for about 600 to start with, and then we'll probably move up from there, but we'll see. This is what I did instead of buying a kit from Crazy Carl's or something like that. I picked up a 12 valve with the 7100 pump on it, and we'll be using all of the gear case and everything off of the front of that 12 valve. I know that that doesn't give you a complete kit. I'll still have to get fuel lines and stuff, and those are on order. They will probably take a little while because they build them on a need basis where you call them and then they hand bend them. So those are on the way, but it'll be a minute before they get here, I suppose. I also have the 7-hole 150 or 200 horse injectors and the billet tappet plate for the side of the engine that blows out when you put some boost on them. Got to get that. Everything else is on order but has not showed up. So today I am going to pull the 6-speed transmission and transfer case off of this 24 valve. That is probably going to go on a first gen 12 valve that is a VE pump, and I plan on slapping that 6-speed on it at where I have the driver's side dump, and then you'll just have to watch and see what we decide to put that in. I have a pretty cool freaking idea. The 12 valve will probably get a P pump later just to up the horsepower to where we can have some fun with the 6-speed, but that's down the road, so we won't even talk about that because I'll start rambling, and then we all know how that goes. Quick update on the 63, just for the fun of it. This thing's coming along. We got the frame started painting to where I could put the engine back in it. The engine, I believe I'm on the 2nd coat. We'll get a couple more on there so that it's good and green and it'll last a while. Okay, next day, the donor engine is back. We power washed, but I'm going to pull the cover on this and pull the pump, and then I think I'm going to stand this engine up onto the bell housing back here so that everything is accessible, easy to get to, takes up less room, but then I can pull the oil pan and stuff off without having it on a engine stand or anything. This is the most common P pump there is out there by the numbers. 180 horse. It's not stellar. Neither one of these engines are the dreaded 53 block, which we'll also get into probably in the same video that we break down the P pump. Just kind of go over the pros and cons of that casting on that block. The little bit of oil that was in this kind of smells like diesel fuel. And I know this engine was having low oil pressure problems, is what they told me. So anyway, I'm gonna pull some stuff apart. See you in a minute. So I have the crank and the cam, top dead center, 0 on the crank, 0 on the cam. Come up here to the 0 on the cam, I put a mark up here with the Sharpie, as you can see. There's no mark on this gear there. And then over here, I have the access to your governor spring that will have to be replaced to turn this pump up. I also pulled this little guy here off. Now this plug, it goes into the crank, and if you pull this sits in there like that, if you pull it out and turn it over, then it's got this groove in it. Now the hole here should have a little flag or a pin that sticks out that this groove right here slides over to lock this pump, so that when you pull it off and service it or do whatever you got to do, you leave your engine zeroed out and you lock your pump. And as long as you don't turn your pump and break the ear or break the plastic piece off, it'll keep your pump zeroed out. But everything that I know, this spring should not be all but lined up with this when the pump is zeroed out. So now I'm going to turn it over until the flag in the pump is lined up with this hole so that I can lock my pump at 0. All right guys, got the pump turned to where the little flag keeper thing is right there in that hole. I found that it works a lot better if you shine your light in through your governor spring access hole and light it up inside there. When you do this, it just lights up all the shiny stuff, and through the glare you can't see your flag. But I got that zeroed out. I went and found my snap-on puller. Seems as though it got left on a steering wheel on an old Chevy GMC. The nut for the drive on the pump, I just pulled it out a little bit, and then I'm using the bolts that came out of the case here on there, and I'll just tighten them down. That'll pop that gear off. But look how far out we are. Here's the 0 on the crank. There's a 0 on the cam. Here's the 0, the single 0 on the cam that was lined up with this line, and now we're clear out here like this. So we're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 teeth out of time on the pump. You know what? Maybe this pump slipped time on them, and that's why they pulled the engine. That could very well be. You have to pull the cam to get this gear housing off of here. I'm sure most of you know that, but maybe some of you don't. I don't. We'll just keep stealing pieces and we'll get it put on this 24 valve so that we can put it in the 450 as soon as our conversion parts show up. They were supposed to be here late last week, didn't show up, so we're still waiting. Fingers crossed, doesn't hold us up too much longer. All right guys, I got this gear pulled off of the P pump, and look at how nasty this shaft is. It is like dirty, nasty, grimy. So, okay, the one thing that you have to do when you put a P pump on or you do anything with it, you have to use brake clean, and you have to have the inside of that gear and the shaft on the P pump. They both have to be like surgical room clean. They can't have anything on them. Some people even use just a little bit of green Loctite, because all you have is that pressed fit on that shaft, and that's it. You'll find that the gear for that P pump, they may not have a marking on them for timing, and that's because that can be pressed on anywhere. Okay, it has a keyway on it, but they don't use it. That's for different application, because they use these 5.9 Cummins in absolutely everything from generators, forklifts, you name it. It was such a great engine that they put it in absolutely everything. So when I put this gear back on, this says R02, and that 0 is right there on that tooth. And I'm going to use that as my 0 mark. That way when if I ever have any trouble down the road and I think that the gear here on the front of that P pump might have slipped. When I turn the engine back to TDC, I can bring the engine to TDC with its markings. The marking on the gear for the P pump is going to say that it's lined up, because it can't move on the gears. But if the little tag thing in the lock hole on the pump doesn't line up, then I know it slipped. But by doing the 0 here on the RO2, if I use that as my TDC mark on my P pump, then if I know it slipped, then I can move my P pump like I did here. I can move it until that tag or the keeper is lined up with the hole, and then I can tell you how many teeth worth of slip that I got. These guys, where they didn't clean that shaft on the P pump, it seemed like everything, like the gear was still very, very pressed on there. I'm guessing that maybe somebody put the P pump on. They just replaced the one that was on the engine, but they replaced it and they didn't clean everything up good. If you pull the pump off and you leave all of this together and you just have the oil fill vent tube goes on the front of the case here, if you don't get the inside of that gear that's just in here, you don't use like a Q-tip or something and get in there and just really, really clean that up, make sure that this shaft on the P pump is just, I mean, like surgical room clean. If you don't do that, it might not happen like as soon as you start it, but your P pump will slip, get the gear on the P pump will slip, you're out of time. Lord only knows what'll happen. Mostly the engine won't run. Probably sounds really bad. So I'm guessing that that's what happened. Unfortunate for them, fortunate for me, type of a thing. I'm gonna get the P pump pulled off, get the engine stood up so I can pull the pan, get it to where I can close down the shop for lunch. So I'll probably see you guys after lunch. Okay, I have the 12 valve stood up here on end, where the front of the engine is up, of course. And I knocked the injectors loose and they all blew out. I did that because you have to take the rocker arms on push rods and everything out so the tappets can come up. Now everybody that I watch that does this, they all talk about what a pain this big long camshaft is when they're trying to stick it in there horizontally. So what I did is I stood it up like this so I can pull this cam up this way, and that way you don't have that big long lever out there that you got to fight and beat the heck out of your cam bearings. I need to grab a 1/2 inch here real quick. I ripped my glove off. Not sure what I caught it on, but it just ripped it right off. Here it is. Hiding over there. Okay. So you got to take the cam retainer out that's back in here. Got 2 bolts on it. My cam is still right in the way. The crank also turns over easier if you don't have the bolts for the flywheel in it, but mine are in it, and they're what it's sitting on for a large part down here on the back side of the crank. That doesn't work too good because they're hung up on the floor when I'm trying to turn it. I'll probably have to set you guys. I'm gonna set you over here on the 6.4 so I can use both hands. I think it'll be easier. Actually, I know it'll be easier, but I don't think it'll be easy enough that I can do it with one hand here. Okay, you can see with the engine sitting there like that, all the tappets are pushed up and they're just staying there. I don't need anything to hold them. And then we just have to get this Now you can imagine when you get down to the last couple of bearing journals on this cam when you got all that weight out there like that. You can imagine how hard it is to get that in there, but this cam looks like it's just absolutely brand new. I'm going to set it back here in the back. All right, we'll go ahead and get the gear case pulled off of here, and then we'll just cover this engine up to where it don't fill up with dirt for now. I'm not going to pull the whole pan off just yet because I don't have a pan gasket yet. And I would like to have one of those so that I can just pull the pan and everything off of the 24 valve and then just go right back together with it without having time here in our windy conditions and everything to get it blown full of stuff and contaminate it. I'm just going to set this cam retainer right back in its spot and put the bolts that belong in it back in it. And then I'll zap all of these block bolts out of here. Those all seemed quite loose. The one especially felt really loose. So this is the piece in which that we needed to harvest to put on the 24 valve so we can put our P pump in. That's the big thing right there. I don't know that there's anything wrong with this engine. I really think that their P pump was just slipped out of time. The low oil pressure condition might have been the oil smells a little bit diesel-y, so it might have been pushing fuel down into the crankcase. Maybe. Be ready to just swap that over to that. I'm going to come over here now, do the exact same thing to the 24 valve. Gotta pull all of this and pull the cam. So I am going to do the same thing with this engine. I am going to back up here with the wrecker and get a hold of it. We'll pick it up, stand it on end just like the other one, and I'll pull it all apart just like the other one, and then we'll get it ready for a P pump. All right, quick update. I have everything pulled off the front of the engine. I have this cover here ready to come off. I actually had it off and I put it back on. I have to remove everything off of the back side of. I will be using this vacuum pump and this power steering pump when we go back together. Need to take valve covers and all of the rocker arms and push rods and everything out of this engine yet and get it turned over and get the cam pulled out of it so that we can start going back together with it. Right now, I have to run home and feed my lots, make sure the cows are fed so that I still have a job here on the ranch. I'm gonna shut down shop, go feed some cows. I had a minute, so I tore everything off of the 24 valve. Got the injector lines, the 44 pump, the air pump, vacuum pump. Made a couple more orders today. I got some more high performance parts coming that I don't know if I was putting them off or forgot about them or just didn't want to spend the money or what, but anyway, they're ordered now. Got the fast system, as you guys know, right away. Like as soon as I ordered everything. They've got nothing from Destroked. And now I got the stuff from Industrial Injection. We got a downpipe. I believe it's a 3-piece exhaust manifold for the common rail. And we got the 6270 turbo. I don't know if you guys want to take a quick peek at it. The turbo is something that I'm not going to use till the very end, and the wind is supposed to come up tomorrow and blow for like 4 days. Everything in here will be covered in dirt. I think I'm just going to leave that turbo and stuff sealed up until I'm ready to put it on because I don't care for it to get half full of dirt. Taking all of the stuff here off of the 24 valve. Nothing exciting there, but even as low mile as this was, this front seal is already leaking and it does have a groove in the crank. So to get rid of that, I mean, if I put a new seal in there, it's still gonna leak. So we gotta get that wear ring on it because I would like for this thing to not mark its territory every time that I park it somewhere, which I know it's kind of what happens when you have a Cummins. Okay, here it is the next day. I did not get any part again as far as putting the engine into the chassis on the 450. I did get all of my gaskets from Napa. I am going to go ahead and pull the gear case off of the front of the 24 valve, pull the cam and everything. In doing that, I have to pull all of the rocker assembly and everything. But that's fine because we're going to replace the head gasket, and I'm going to put valve springs in the head that are rated for basically a race application so that we won't get valves floating and stuff at the higher RPM, because we are putting springs in the P pump that are 4,000 to 5,000 RPM springs so that it'll give us fuel at the higher RPMs and won't cut out. We're also going to replace the oil pan. When I dropped it when I was moving it out of storage, that you can see that it's kind of caved in. I could probably just take it off and beat that out. I'm going to steal the pan off of the 12 valve and just throw on here. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the 12 valve. I might just throw it on Marketplace and get rid of it. Okay guys, got you a front row seat. We're going to go ahead and pull this valve cover off of here. Get into our valve train. We have to loosen up all of these rocker arms so that we can pull them off so that we can get the push rods out. When we do that, then all of these bridges will have to come off. I've seen where these bridges that go between your valves, they have a little dimple on one end of them, and I've seen that they are directional, and I'll show you a little bit of difference. Now I'm noticing on these, this one, the dimple's not there, and it is there, and it's not there, and it is 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 there, and then down here this one isn't. So this engine, they don't seem to have been put in to where they have to be. Now I got a clean box over here to throw all these rocker arms in. I believe that's a 14 millimeter, 14 mil, 9/16, same thing. You can see how nice and clean this low mile engine is. I should have taken this engine home and power washed it when I did the 12 valve, but I didn't. So you just want to take the load off of all of your valves before you start loosening these so that you don't ruin the threads on your bolts. And then we'll keep track of these and we'll keep them in pairs, and we'll keep the push rods and everything in order. There is a base that comes off here. If you're going to work on your engine standing up like this, you have to remember that gravity is kind of your enemy. When it's sitting up there right, all this stuff will just sit there. But when it's standing up like this, it's all going to want to fall on the floor. So we want to keep everything. And I say that, and then the next one falls on the floor, right in the floor drive. All right. So that gets all of them out. Now I'm gonna close this box up so it'll keep those nice and fresh. So now we can move on to getting our cam out. Okay, so I only had to rotate this maybe 1/8 of a turn, and I'm already lined up on TDC, top dead center. But I have to take the cam a full rotation so that it pushes all the tappets up, so that we can get the cam out. So we'll just make sure we take that cam a full turn. Now with the engine standing up like this, you remember, like I showed you before, all of those tappets will just stay. We don't need a dowel or any zip ties or anything like that to hold it. It'll just stay up. They'll all stay up because they're laying horizontal. There we went a full full rotation with the cam, and we're back to top dead center. So now we have to pull our retainer off of the cam. That'll be a 1/2 inch or a 13 mil. Okay. Already took most of the bolts out of the front of this. No, I didn't. I don't think I've taken any of them out. Yeah, I did. Took all but 2 of them out. So the gear case here should be ready to come off. Got to go ahead and remove this old gasket here. Clean my scraper up good. Try and keep most of the motion where you're scraping everything away from the inside of the engine, because we don't want to get anything in the engine. Another benefit to having the engine standing up like this is that if I was scraping this off and the engine was standing up, everything would be going right into the oil pan. And this way it is not. It's all staying up here on the top. So that's definitely a plus. I'm able to kind of keep control of the dirt and stuff too. It's just all staying up here on the top. Of course, then I say that and I start scraping everything down towards the oil pan here. I have a gasket set, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take this water pump off. Hopefully that gasket is included. I have my gasket over here. I'm going to go ahead and smear the surface with just a little bit of the right stuff here, just because I don't know if you can make a Cummins not sweat oil out all the time, but I'm going to give it the best chance. I'm going to give it a heck of a try here, so we'll give her a smear of the right stuff. Not enough that you really even notice it, just enough for that gasket to stick to, and that'll give us a little extra layer of sealant there. There's some of this stuff that it's kind of like we haven't tore down this far, we might as well do it while we're here. The last Cummins swap that I did, the engine was just pouring oil out of everywhere, and the guy opted to not even clean it up, let alone try to get some of the oil leaks stopped, and wasn't very long, and then he was wondering if I would pull the engine and undo everything and seal it up, and I told him nope, no, I don't want to do that now. Would have been pretty quick and dirty and simple to do, while the Cummins was in between being in a pickup, going from its old Dodge to a Ford, and had everything tore all down, and didn't fix it up, and then just to think about having to tear all of that back apart, just about turn your stomach. So on mine, I'm going to go ahead and take care of these issues. Now, when we did that other swap from the 6.4 to the Cummins, we didn't do a P pump. That engine was actually the engine that we went with on that one was actually already a P pump 12 valve that we put in there. All right, we're good. Not exactly what this is about. Not sure about that. So I'm going to have to go ahead and take the pump or the pan off, because this gasket's got these ears on it that I'm not 100% sure what their plan there was. This will probably make a whole new puddle of oil to stand in, huh? Okay, taking the oil pan off kind of ruined the cleanliness of my gloves. So, got some fresh gloves. Okay, so I got the gasket on there. Now, going to go ahead and smear some of this right stuff right on the other side of the gasket here. Saw on that 12 valve that whoever had it apart, they just used some silicone, didn't even put a gasket in there, and I'm going to tell you that that's why that one was leaking so bad. That 12 valve is actually about as bad as I've ever seen one. He said that it had a low oil pressure problem, and I told him that it might have been having low pressure problems because all the oil was on the outside of the engine. But I really think that that one had slipped time and was dieseling the oil in it and thinned it out to where it was saying that it had low oil pressure. I don't think there's anything wrong with that 12 valve as long as the bearings are still good in it. They might be bad from the oil getting too thin. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is necessary? You think it's a good idea to add this extra little bit of security as far as trying to get a Cummins to not spew oil out of everywhere? Or do you think I'm wasting my time? I just really don't, whoa! I don't think it can hurt anything. So now I go and find my gear case off of the 12 valve. I'm going to put just a spot of red Loctite on these bolts that go on the inside here, because the last thing we want is to have one of these bolts come loose on the inside of the engine. Could make for a really bad day. Jeez. I don't think we need that much. Look at that. Probably share that with everybody here. Okay, I gotta go and grab my smaller torque wrench. Okay, these little bolts, almost all of them on this Cummins, if they have a 10mm head on them, then you're looking at 18 foot-pounds. That's another good reason to put red Loctite on them, because they're only torqued to 18 foot-pounds. I don't know if there's a sequence on these, but I'm going to do like you do on everything else. I'm going to go from the inside out. Okay, now I can drop the cam back in there. Now you have to remember to stick your cam retainer in there before you get all the way down. This is reversible, you can use it either way, same. But if you go all the way down with your cam, then you can't get it in there. All right, got the cam in. We're on our timing mark. So now we need to get our cam bolts. I'm gonna put just a small dab of red Loctite on these, just because I don't want anything coming apart in there. Okay, now there's these ears on that. Okay guys, I have to trim these ears off of this gasket from the gear case, and I have to find the oil pan gasket for the oil pan, and I'll slap the oil pan off of the 12 valve on the 24 valve. There's nothing exciting about it, it's just putting an oil pan on. I'll have a look at the gasket. I might smear it with the right stuff like I did the timing gear housing, just to try to keep the oil from leaking. It does look like it had quite a leak towards the back of the engine, so I got a whole lower engine gasket set, so we'll be putting the new front main seal and the rear main seal in, just so that try to keep the oil leaks down. I'll do that, and then we'll come back. I'm gonna lay the cover plate over this to keep it clean, put the valve cover back on, and then again we're just waiting on parts. We'll get back to this video as soon as I get parts enough to continue. So for me, who knows how long. For you guys, it'll just be a couple of seconds. So we'll be right back at it. All right, it's now Friday morning. The 24 valve is still standing here on end, and I finally got a hold of Destroked. They still hadn't shipped my parts. I ordered the parts on the 7th. It is now the 24th. That is just, there's no excuse for it. I'm sure that Destroked will hate me making this video, but I wanted to put one of these Destroked kits basically in the off-road wrecker, and then I've got 3 or 4 other ones that I want to do. And after this little experiment and experience with Destroked, I'm questioning whether I will go through them again or not. They've been very helpful in the past, and I had good luck with them. But this time around has kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. They have their warehouse is right down here in Colorado. I could have took an hour and a half trip down and got my parts and been back and had everything in 3 hours. And instead we're sitting here, well over 2 weeks later, and they finally got me a tracking number, and my parts have been assigned a tracking number. I think as of like 10 o'clock this morning, they had finally been picked up by UPS. So I'm looking at like Monday afternoon, maybe. And they said that the reason that they didn't ship them out to me was because they were missing a couple of parts. The order consists of 4 rather large boxes, and why they couldn't have sent me everything except for the couple of pieces that they were missing at the time, I'm not sure, and I don't know. Had I not called and complained about it, I don't know if they would have picked up and got them to me as fast as they're going to. It seems like I got kind of rubbed, which also has really rubbed me in the wrong way. So if you're thinking about using Destroked, you might mention to them that, like, you know, might want to get this project done sometime this month, because it's going to take you a month to get your parts. So I'm going to get this engine stood up, get it on the hoist, get it out of the way because I need to move the off-road wrecker and my boat so that we can get the chassis of the 63 back toward the cab, because I have to patch up the cab mount brackets real quick. That's on an upcoming video, and get that pickup set together. And we don't get to put the 24 valve into the 450 because I still don't have parts to do that. Just wait around forever and not have a video out, but that's the way it goes. So thanks for sticking around and watching it. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.